Hello and welcome everyone to the week ahead commodity reports, where we of course will be reviewing the markets for the week ahead. As we head into the final week of September and the final quarter of the year, we are heading into a highly lucrative event-driven period filled with a magnitude of back-to-back trading opportunities, including the final three employment reports of the year, a series of market-moving central bank policy meetings from the ECB, Federal Reserve and Bank of England, as well as an array of global inflation readings, all topped off with the US midterm elections. This cocktail of explosive events which traders will not want to miss out on, it's guaranteed to be a license to print money and drive market sentiment over the next 90 days. In fact, Goldman Sachs have already begun prepping their clients for what they predict could be one of the most profitable quarters ever seen. If you've been kicking yourself for missing out on some of the biggest trading events so far this year, and you still want to make 2022 your best year yet, then you've just been granted the ultimate opportunity. Mark the US midterm election in your calendar because it's definitely one of the most hotly anticipated money-making events of the final quarter. Midterm elections occur at the midpoint of a presidential term and they can impact the market significantly, and this year will be no exception. In a year where soaring inflation, the war in Ukraine, the cost of living crisis, rate hikes, surging energy prices, recession risk and a bear market have commanded headlines, a long list of Wall Street banks, they believe that 2022 could be one of the most consequential midterm election years in history. Technically, America is in a recession because of President Joe Biden's inflation crisis. This recession is the predictable outcome of the Democrats' decision to flood the economy with trillions, pay people not to work, and strangle American fossil fuels. Joe Biden's $2 trillion rescue plan, that's pumped the economy with unprecedented levels of money, leading to the second highest deficit in history. That has now left the economy facing its deepest federal debt crisis ever. Ultimately, all of this has repercussions and inevitably sets the stage for an extraordinary chain reaction in the market, presenting savvy traders with a series of highly lucrative opportunities ahead. Elsewhere, in one of the most sudden shifts in global economic policy seen in decades, October through to December will inevitably open the door to more dramatic rate hikes from central banks around the world in their frantic attempt to restore price stability at any cost necessary. The hard fact is that as long as we have interest rates below the inflation rate, and even if they're higher, they're still negative, and negative interest rates put upward pressure on inflation. Ultimately, you can't fight inflation with negative interest rates. That's like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. Surprisingly, this is something central bankers still don't seem to have figured out, which is leaving them spinning their wheels and not even getting close to bending the curve on inflation. So far this year, the Fed's inflation struggles, they have undeniably bolstered the dollar, exacerbating inflation elsewhere by raising the cost of commodities, which are more often than not priced in the dollar. This is unleashing a crisis on top of a crisis, with a reverse currency war, which is now in full flow. Central banks across the world, they're being left with no other choice but to frantically compete with the Federal Reserve in order to have the strongest currency, shifting inflation pressures to every corner of the globe. Extraordinary times, they do create extraordinary opportunities. Right now, this market is a trader's dream. As every successful trader knows, the markets move in very predictable macro trends and cycles. As we enter into the final quarter of the year, we are heading into a highly lucrative event-driven period. If you want to successfully navigate this volatility and capitalize on the huge opportunities ahead to build substantial life-changing wealth, then you need to utilize a research-driven approach. If you know how to connect the dots and position yourself in the right place at the right time, ready to capitalize on the huge opportunities that are currently unfolding, then you can make a fortune and build substantial life-changing wealth. According to Bloomberg, banks, hedge funds, they're making multi-billions capitalizing on the week-to-week macro-driven opportunities. And it's not so different for our clients at the Gold and Silver Club. The majority of our clients at the Gold and Silver Club, utilizing our proprietary research-driven trading approach, they've already made in excess of 6 and 7 figures so far this year, and we still have another 4 months left to go. In fact, our clients have already been fully briefed, prepared, and ready to make the final quarter of the year their biggest and best yet. If you've been kicking yourself for missing out on some of the biggest trading opportunities so far this year, and you still want to make 2022 your best year yet, then you still have time. Just go to www.jointhegoldandsilverclub.com to learn more about our mentorship program. So with that, let's move over to the charts and we'll talk you through exactly what we're looking at here as we head into the final week of the quarter. So firstly, moving over to the dollar index, as you know, we've been very bullish on the dollar throughout the month of September. In fact, we hit our previous profit target on the dollar index just within 10 days of executing that trade at the end of August, going to the start of September, where we had the biggest 1 week move since March of 2020. And in fact, that has even been further eclipsed by the breakout that we had in the last week, with the dollar breaking out towards the 113 level there on Friday. So this no doubt put pressure on a lot of commodities, but we did talk you through to expect this at the end of the quarter, especially once you get into quad witching. We've seen very clearly that into quad witching, and afterwards as well, we've seen the S&P 500 that has broken down over 5% in the last week. We've seen that with NASDAQ, which has broken down 4.5%. We've even seen it on cryptocurrencies, which have essentially, they've corrected over 16% over the course of this month. And that's also relevant to energies as well, where heating oil is now down 11% over the month of September. This is relevant to crude oil, which is currently also down 11%. You've got Brent crude oil, which is broken down 8%. So as you mentioned before, these sell-offs in the market, as long as you are anticipating them ahead of time, which of course we have been doing so, it provides you with an ultimate opportunity to sniper in and accumulate very low once we get that slingshot move higher, which we are anticipating as you move into the final quarter. I see these sell-offs as a massive opportunity to accumulate at much lower prices, particularly as we've been sitting on our hands, ready to deploy capital back into these markets, waiting for the end of the quarter, profit taking to take place, waiting to get quad witching out of the way, get many central bank news items out of the way as well, and then essentially come in and sniper in and take advantage of the volatility. You would have seen in the last week, platinum, it broke out at the start of last week to 2-month highs. We took the opportunity to bank another 500 points profit on this market. Now we're seeing this sell off to the downside. Happy about this, because then we can look to reload yet again. Back at liquidity here, if we get a break back down towards that 800 level or lower, that would be perfect to reload. Similar on silver. So as you know, just over a week and a half ago, silver had the biggest one-day move since February of 2021. On that breakout to the upside, we were scaling out our profits, banking into strength. Now, if we roll over, that's absolutely fine, because we've continued to lock in profits, banking into strength. In fact, I would prefer silver at this point to pull back, come back and retest the swing lows around the $17, $17.50 level, or even lower than that if we can get it on silver as we transition between now and the end of the quarter, and then we move into October. You have to remember, into the first week of October, you also have a 1-week public holiday for China as they're on their national holidays. That can provide further opportunities as we go into the beginning of October, when you have thinner liquidity in the market to sniper in. And of course, next week we have the end of quarter profit taking, which typically that tends to impact more heavily equities such as the S&P 500, such as the NASDAQ and so forth, which are ultimately, I'm looking at great opportunities to reload on other metals here, particularly copper as well. This has been on our radar for a while now. As you know, we scaled out when we had 4 positions on, banking into strength, particularly at the end of August here, when copper prices, they also broke out to 2-month highs. We continue to lock in profits on that breakout, and essentially I'm looking to build into more positions, especially if we can get a break back down towards the swing lows here that were tested in July. These would be great zones to look at, starting to test the water and look out for areas of liquidity, providing we get our confirmation to do so. Very similar on palladium as well, which is now pulled back over 3% in the last week. If we can break back down towards the previous swing lows here, back towards the early September lows and the mid-August lows here as well, that would be ideal as opportunities to capitalize on further momentum here as we go into the final quarter. So we're waiting here to sniper in at lower prices. Gold as well has been more resilient over the last week than many of the other markets. So for example, if you have a look at the dollar index last week, it broke out 3% to the upside, whereas gold pulled back approximately 1.6% in the last week. Gold was more resilient than, for example, currencies like the pound, which dropped 3.7% in the day on Friday, and it also dropped 5% in the last week. It's down 6.5% in the last month as well. So this is the pound, which has broken all the way down to historic lows now as of Friday's close. Of course, euro has now lost parity as well, especially over the last week. We've continued to accelerate lower with a 3% breakdown in price. So I am also paying attention to gold priced in the British pound now as well, because gold priced in the British pound has just broken out to 1-month highs. It's also stabilized against the Australian dollar and also rallying against gold versus the euro as well. So it's only a matter of time before we then get that sell-off with the dollar, especially as we move into the next quarter. And once we start to see that top get put in for the dollar, that is going to provide some fantastic opportunities to capitalize on extreme fear in the market that we have right now, where the sentiment is one of the lowest it's been in over a decade, for us to sniper in and catch the lows and build into multiple positions to gear up for the final quarter of this year. But as is with everything, it's all about timing and knowing what you're looking for in the market in order to sniper, capitalize, and accumulate at much lower prices to benefit off all the volatility and opportunities which will be presented in the final quarter of 2022. As we enter a new economic climate, the importance of having an essential income generating skill like trading, that has become a must-have necessity if you want to actually reach your long-term financial goals in these rapidly changing markets. Then you can't just stockpile cash in a savings account, because rapidly surging inflation, that will erode your wealth and purchasing power. Instead, you need to make your money work as hard for you as you've worked hard for it. One of the biggest obstacles that holds 95% of retail traders back from achieving their desired success, it's not having access to the correct professional strategies, institutional level data, and market intelligence to make confident decisions with accuracy in these highly profitable markets. If you follow the wrong strategy, or worse still, if you lack access to the right data at the right time, you will end up wasting lots of time, money, and effort, and you'll have no results to show for all of your hard work. In these fast-moving markets, data is power. You need to keep evolving and adapting, but most importantly, you need to utilize a research-driven approach to ensure you have the ultimate edge to capitalize on each big move with accuracy and precision. Technical analysis and outdated technical indicators, they will not work in these markets. Those days are long gone. If that's all you're relying on, then you'll have no edge in these markets. You will FOMO in, you'll miss out, and inevitably you'll just get chopped up. The greater your data and intelligence you have, the greater your edge. You need to know how hedge funds and banks, they're positioning themselves in the markets, where they're buying, where they're selling, so you can get your timing precise. Key liquidity zones, fundamentals, macroeconomic, seasonal cycles, intermarket correlations, just to name a few. As we transition through the final quarter of the year, we are heading into a highly lucrative event-driven period, a trader's paradise. If you want to successfully navigate the market and capitalize on the huge opportunities ahead to build substantial, life-changing wealth, then you need to utilize a research-driven approach. Never underestimate what you can achieve in the next few months from now with the right guidance and mentorship. You can always give people the right skills, knowledge, and strategies to transform their financial future. One thing you can't give them back is the time they have lost. Time is the most valuable commodity that we have. Make sure that you don't waste it. If you want to join our community of successful traders and take your trading to the next level, there is an opportunity for you to do so. As a member, you get access to our exclusive live trading room webinars. You get access to real-time trade ideas, access to institutional research and market intelligence, access to our private members academy website, and also support and one-to-one mentoring. For more information, just go to www.jointhelivetradingroom.com. The link is also below this report in the description, so just click on the link, make an application, and we will of course get in touch with you ASAP.